Old people VRBO, young people Airbnb.
Today, the next big market outside of Airbnb is the VRBO market. And I know a ton of people who choose VRBO only to deal with versus Airbnb.
So I choose it. If I'm outside, if I'm looking for a place, I lean towards VRBO for some reason. I don't know why.
If you're above the age of 35, a lot of times VRBO is something that's easier for you to use. It's a native...
Did you just call us old?
You are old, yeah. That's fine.
Zachary, it is, I believe, about a week away. At the time this video comes out, we might be the week of Memorial Day, and yet we're sitting here in sweatshirts, which is super bipolar of Mother Nature to do this to us. It's been so hot, and then we get 2 bipolar days here in early May. But actually, it's nice out, and we are here at the Trails Inn Hideaway, another grand welcome property. And if you didn't already notice, the house is as sweet as the view.
Oh yeah, this place is great, and the homeowner's an awesome person, and you know, it's one of the few places that they put a pellet smoker down there, which is pretty rare actually in an Airbnb. They're hard to manage and maintain, and a lot of people don't know how to use them, so the fact that he puts that down there is incredible. Fire tables, fire pits, right on the lake, calm cove back here, but you can see the main channel. Like, it's a very rare kind of property setup.
Yeah, pool table, shuffleboard table, slide off the dock. You'll see all of this. We'll give you a walkthrough at the end of this video. As you know, this is our monthly STR, short-term rental data video update, sure. But before we get to that, Zach,
okay,
you know where I'm going. I did this with Jesse and his real estate market update. There's a really hot topic, maybe one of the hottest topics that's been at the lake in years, if not ever.
Yeah.
I think in terms of the people that actually showed up to the hearings, which there's been 2 now. I haven't showed up to either. Busy, for what it's worth. Data centers, however you pronounce data.
Is it like potato?
I guess so. I actually asked Jesse, I said, you know how people are at the lake, we're very particular about how we pronounce things. Versailles, Gravois, Bagnall. Yeah. Like, you have to say it right. And right, by the way, is lake right, not necessarily right. But I just wanted to get your opinion. Do you have an opinion on the whole data center conversation?
Like I told you, I'm conflicted on the thing. I think part of that's just my overall knowledge of the topic, right? Like, before I have a public opinion, I'd probably say I need to do 1,000 hours of research. I'm big on that. But here's what I will say, a couple things. I'm super thankful for those that are going to the meetings and they're recording those things, that I can watch them, because I do watch. I appreciate that. I can sit in my living room and watch that. We're not in a property every day. I'm traveling. Like, I was in Denver last week at VR Nation, learning more about how to be a better host and how to create better experiences for guests. So I'm very focused on the growth of my business right now, which puts me in a disadvantage from a political perspective locally. On the other end of that, I will say this lake, we've been coming here for, since I was 18. So I'm 36 now. So I've been coming here a long time.
That's 18 years.
Oh, hey, you gotta do the math. I also went to Arkansas State, just want to be clear.
He's from Arkansas.
Yeah, but what I'll say is, like, I love the lake. Change is hard for me too. I think it's because I have a passion for what it was and what it's becoming. I have a ton of, I think, the opportunity growth for the lake. It's fun to watch. I had the privilege of spending a large portion of my professional life in a cooperative situation. If you guys don't know much about co-ops, it's a lot of rural communities coming together to create better experiences. And I have seen towns in these situations where they choose not to do anything and they just die. And then I've seen the ones that choose to do everything and they get overcrowded and they have those problems. And so I'm appreciative of those that are in the middle of it, both sides trying to figure it out. What I would say is things like data centers, whether that's the opportunity or not, I don't know. We'd have to think a lot about it. But the opportunity to create new opportunities for jobs, new opportunity for growth here at the lake is exciting to me. It's actually why the casino was an exciting thing for me. Is like, people go, hotels won't hurt your business. No, it will help me tremendously. It will help my homeowners tremendously, because it's a different offering in the market that we don't necessarily have today that's really good. A really good hotel room changes the dynamic of pricing here in a big way. And so progress is good at a level that makes sense. And I think I'm not smart enough to know what that level is, but I would say that I want to continue to learn more. And for those that are posting on Facebook and they're educated, when you've done the 1,000 hours of research, those are the people I want to read about. Those are the comments that I want to read, and then do my own research to kind of get my own opinion.
I think my opinion on it, and I don't have a strong one either, not for or against, which I guess would probably piss some people off because they want us to be against it. And I'm not saying I'm not necessarily. If there are negative environmental impacts to the water at the lake, which I don't think there would be, I would not approve of it. If there's going to be, long-term effects, cancer, things like that, yeah, of course I don't want that shit around. If I live near it and there's a humming sound, I wouldn't want it either. I don't disagree with anyone. I've seen the renderings, and you know this because a good buddy of mine is kind of a part of this. I've seen the renderings of what they've talked about, and that has nothing to do with the data center. I think the data center is just a way to, kind of like a TIF probably, if I had to guess, and I don't know this for certain, to offset cost. But the renderings for what they're talking about building on these 2,000 acres behind Walmart is almost a whole nother town. And it would definitely elevate Camdenton to a whole nother level. It would double the size of Camdenton. And that is not necessarily a good thing for anybody who's not anti-growth, but in terms of elevation, in terms of bringing more opportunity, bringing more business, bringing more things, that's what I would be excited about. Data center, I'm indifferent. Like, yeah, if it's going to have negative impacts, get rid of it. What I want to know, kind of like what you said, the research that exists is a bunch of what seems like a bunch of pissed off locals, probably for valid reason. My question to the locals is where do you get your information from? If it's from social media, I don't know that I believe that, because it's the whole theory about social media is going to show you what you want to see. If you're a Democrat, it's going to show you pro-Democrat, anti-Republican. If you're a Republican, it's going to show you pro, you know what I mean? And I believe it's called an echo chamber.
Yeah.
And I believe that's what's happening. I want to know, like, are there positives to that? If there are, can I weigh the two? We haven't heard from the other side. So at this point, I feel like we only have one side to live with. And
I saw a post from a guy, and I wish I could remember his name because I'd love to give you the credit for this, but the post was on Facebook. It was on Lake Area Happenings, and he was talking about data centers. But his post, essentially, to wrap it up, how I summed it up, was I just want to support the community at the lake that my kids can grow up in and live here and have a full-time job all year round. Like, that's what he wanted to support. And I couldn't have agreed with that comment more. And I think I feel the same way. Like, as a business owner at the lake, I mean, just pure transparency. Obviously, we're a 3-year-old business, almost 3 years old. Cash flow is tight here. Start generating revenue sometime in April. We lose money all off season, and then we start generating revenue sometime in April. And then March, April, May, we're trying to just survive from last year's cash. And then we get to June, July, and August, and we have a lot of cash. And then we're trying to, you've got this very cyclical cash flow nature. And if you can't figure out how to work your money, then you end up making a lot of knee-jerk reactions, which is how employees, we went to all employees this year, which was fantastic for everybody involved. That's really expensive for us. It's better for the employee. That's what I want to do. When you start making all those financial company decisions, you start to realize that, like, I make one too many hires, and then in the off season, I got to let somebody go. That's tough. I mean, it's tough for them. It's tough for us. And so, like, building an economy here that's a little longer, like just a little longer, could absolutely change the business types, how we operate, the way we can operate, how we treat people and the locals. Like, all of that kind of happens because we brought some level of progress into the lake that's different. It's not just vacation rentals that run our market. It's also second homeowners, which people got to understand. There's a lot more second homeowners that don't rent than there are that do. Oh, yeah. Those two groups combined with the locals create our economy, and we need all of it. Yeah. And we need the diversity in it. And so right now we're really light on creating the income when the second homeowners and the vacationers are starting. Yeah. I just want to do that.
And I think to sum that up too, to sum up everything, is if you're a business owner, you probably are very much pro economic development. And if you are here because you wanted to retire to a quiet place, I can understand and sympathize that you probably chose the wrong place anymore. Because I think over the next 5 to 10 years, we are going to become a 365 destination. Yeah. And you will find yourself probably more irritated. And actually, I can attest to it. I was talking to somebody recently about, this is my first full year here. And I already feel like a seasoned, grizzled veteran because I'm already feeling annoyed by the traffic on Friday afternoons. Yeah. And it's like, I enjoyed January and February so much that you kind of get a little irritated when people start to show up. Like, get out of here, tourists.
Nothing like having a business in downtown Camdenton on a Friday afternoon and trying to get out. Like, it's almost
that needs to improve as well. So with that said, perfect segue to let's talk about the stats. So if you are a property owner who's considering renting your property, if you are a vacationer that wants to come vacation here, does come vacation here, or you're finding anywhere in between, this is all fascinating stuff.
Well, I think last time we talked a lot about the Airbnb market. That's the stats I pulled. And I think I remember talking about this, like the stats are separated by platform. That's really important because each platform has different costs associated. There's different layers involved in those platforms and how we work with them. But today, the next big market outside of Airbnb is the VRBO market. And I know a ton of people who choose VRBO only to deal with versus Airbnb.
So I choose it. If I'm outside, if I'm looking for a place, I lean towards VRBO for some reason. I don't know why.
I think VRBO's done a really good job. They were the first early adopter. Actually, people think about Airbnb, but actually VRBO's first. They came out early. If you're above the age of 35, a lot of times VRBO is something that's easier for you to use. It's a native.
Did you just call us old?
You are old. Yeah, that's fine. You can be young at heart and still be old in age. It's fine. The UI is really centered around someone who of that age demographic. I mean, even me, I find myself with VRBO understanding how to click the buttons better than Airbnb versus like the younger crowd. Airbnb is very intuitive. It's just literally how we grew up with our technology. Airbnb continues to adopt and drive new tech, new UIs, UXs, which is your front interface, versus VRBO is really just like focused on keeping their clicks the same, like centered it.
Old people VRBO, young people Airbnb. That's what I took from this.
Well, yeah, I think it's a general statement. There's obviously crossover. So just to recap with Airbnb, we talked about the total number of properties on Airbnb. What's the total number? Just to recap, that's 3,251 properties at Lake of the Ozarks currently sit on Airbnb.
How many?
3,251 properties sit on the market with Airbnb.
God.
And then compare that to VRBO, which only has 2,296 properties. So 2,300 properties on VRBO. It's about 1,000 less. Okay. That's not a combined number. There's a lot of those are doubled up. They're on both Airbnb and VRBO. So we say there's roughly between 4,000 and 5,000 properties total for sale on the lake.
For rent.
For rent.
Short-term. Okay.
And that includes things like resorts and hotels that may not be on VRBO or Airbnb. Mm-hmm. So places like hotels.com and booking.com may have places
or
that
people that self-manage and just don't put it on there.
Yeah, or they just rent to people they know. Yeah, that's totally true. So between 4,000 and 5,000 roughly at the lake. So if we talk about VRBO being a little bit smaller market, a little bit more niche market. And so when you think about, if I have a house and I'm trying to choose which platform I'm going to put it on, if you've got a very niche house, so let's say you're in the 6, 7, 8 bedroom range, VRBO is a really great platform for you. It's going to be a little older crowd, like I said. Mm-hmm. Typically, the VRBO, I think from rules and regulations and like all that are much more lax in terms of when a guest comes in and they book. You know, whereas our Airbnb is very specific. Like you have to do these things, and then if someone they're upset about those things, it had to be in your rules. VRBO is a little different than that. Like they'll work with you a little differently. And I think that VRBO is about, even though there's less properties on there, I think it's why it's 60% of our bookings today. And I think we talked about this, but like first year bookings almost always go to Airbnb. So if you're just launching your property, Airbnb is a really great place to get an early kickstart. VRBO likes to wait for you to get the bookings and established, and then they start to promote.
How long is the rule?
Oh man, it's a good question. I find that the first 6 months, probably 80-90% of the bookings are going to come through Airbnb. For me, it's either Airbnb or direct. And then VRBO kicks in usually about 7-8 months in, and then we start to see the inverse. Mm-hmm. Airbnb starts to promote it, and really what happens is VRBO has it's a premier host status, mm-hmm. and you have to get like 3 reviews, and they have to be an average of like 4.8 or something. And once you get all the reviews, and then they start to say, okay, this guy's doing pretty good. And VRBO judges you by the property, not by the profile. So with Airbnb, like if you go to my Airbnb profile, you can see all my reviews combined through Airbnb in one score. VRBO is by property. So like I can have a property that's not doing well on VRBO, or maybe has a couple bad reviews, but it doesn't affect my overall rating, versus like Airbnb, like it affects my overall rating. So gotcha. That's one of the reasons that if you have multiple properties, I like VRBO, because it judges it by the property. Yeah. But anyway, we'll play the same game. What do you think is the number one bedroom count wise on VRBO?
3.
Yeah, 3 bedroom. 848 of the 2,300 is 3 bedrooms.
What's the next one?
Next one would be 2 bedrooms at 552. It's a little different. And then 3 bedrooms, and then 1 bedroom, and then it goes
4?
6.
What's 4?
4 is 358.
And then it really drops down once you get.
Yeah, above that 5 is 188. Then it goes to like 70 properties in a 6, 37.
So when you say if you have a 6, 7 bedroom rental, you're going to really stand out because the competition's.
Yeah, you're going to stand out. So right now you got to remember all my data, thinking about what I'm seeing from a booking perspective, is based off of early season bookings. You're going to see 4 bedrooms with hot tubs and pools book first and book for the most. In fact, if you have a pool, right, a heated pool in particular, if you can open your pool by April 15th and it's heated, you can make more like Memorial Day to the 1st of June pricing. You can push that. If you don't have a heated pool, it's really hard to push that, because you got to think about the weather.
Does it have to be a big pool, or can it be like one of those lap pools that are like, I don't know, probably like 6 to 8 feet wide by 10 or 15 feet long?
I think it has to accommodate what they're trying to do, which is like, I want a place to get in the water and like hang out.
Yeah.
So if it's one of those that just has like the thing that you swim against, I think it helps, but I don't think that's going to be as good as if you had a full lap pool or a pool. A lot of our pools are not full-size Olympic pools. They're half that.
Have you seen, by the way, those container pools? They were at the shootout last year showing them off. They're shipping containers converted into pools.
No, but that sounds great.
Yeah, all you need is a pad to put it on, and then you can put the components underneath, like in one of the shipping drawers. And yeah, they come in different sizes from like, you know, I think the smallest one was 20 or 30 feet up to however big containers get. It's long, not very wide, but it was a nice sized pool, and evidently a lot cheaper to put in. I don't know much about that. I just gave a plug to some company. Yeah. I'm not getting paid by, but.
Well, I'm not definitely not advocating that everyone go put a pool in. I'm just saying that like if you've got a 5, 6, 7 bedroom, if you want to make the money you want to make, you're probably going to need to get into that level. If you guys want to know how Lake of the Ozarks market is trending as a young market, look at how Florida trended over the last 20 years. Like Florida came in Wild West down there, and they put a lot of regulation in over time. Different counties had different rules. You go, well, you're on the beach. Why do you need a pool? People want pools. So like, then they started putting pools in, and then those were the places to go. So like, you can look at that vacation market and go, how are they handling the growth? There's a lot of similarities, not perfectly one-to-one, but there's a lot of similarities in how their market came and grew versus how ours is trending as well. Again, we're a very young vacation rental market. And I know there's people like, I've been vacationing there for 20, 30 years. Yes, but we started as a resort community, which was awesome, and everyone loved that community. And I think a lot of us don't miss that in a lot of ways. But that resort community, as it's evolving, we're very young in how we mature into a full vacation rental market. And that is why I go to a ton of these events, is because I want to learn how they're growing. But I would definitely tell you, if you've got a large home on the lake, with or without a pool, you should consider spending the money for multi-platform opportunities. Like, you should go buy a property management system, spend the money to put your even if it's one property, so that you can manage 30 platforms out there. It's just only going to help you be competitive.
That's a great point too, by the way, so for anybody who watches this or listens to this who is a self-managing, you're crazy in my opinion. First of all, for a couple reasons. Even if you are retired and you have the time, which I don't, which is why it was an easy hire, just the chore of putting it out there on all the platforms, the concept of dynamic pricing, which we've learned because we've talked to a lot of self-managed property owners. They're like, oh no, I just keep the same price, and you're like, oh my god, you're either A, pricing yourself out, or B, leaving a lot of money on the table. And I personally, this is not just saying this because I love Zach and Grand Welcome, but I mean, I think you're crazy if you don't consider hiring a management company. I think even though it costs you money to hire them, you'll make more money in the long run.
I think on the 3-year trend, you definitely will. That's going to play out every time. The first year is always the worst. Yeah. I'd say that a lot.
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I know you don't want to talk about it. We've had some issues. But that is the truth. And so you've got to stay in the pocket for 3 years. If you're not going to do it for 3 years, you kind of wasted your money the first year.
Yeah. It's like anything. It's like anything. If you're going on a weight loss journey and you only give it a month, it's not enough time. If you go on a marketing journey and you only give it a year, it's not enough time. All the things. I
think so. But what I would say is, like, from a pricing perspective, is I also talk to a lot of self-managed people. I encourage all of you. My number's out there. Call it. They call me all the time, and we'll talk about self-managing. And then, look, there are properties, and I'll get this out of the way too. I've got some internet hate lately, which is your fault mostly.
Ooh, speaking my language.
Yeah. There are properties, like, as a business, I just can't manage. Like, they're fundamentally, they don't generate enough revenue for me to have a team. You guys got to remember that I have overhead in.
So you're not a STR whore.
No, not by any stance. And I also don't look at a property and go, oh, it's garbage. Like, it doesn't have any value. I think every property has the value to be rented. I just think some properties aren't meant for me.
In other words, I'm hearing you say some properties should be self-managed.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I'll give you an example. If you have a 1 or 2 bedroom house that you have to winterize, you should self-manage it. For a ton of reasons, you should self-manage it. It's going to be super expensive for you to have me manage it, because I'm going to winterize it, de-winterize it, and then all the challenges that come with that circle of things is a lot of work for us, and it's a lot of work for homeowners. And that work has got to be paid for. I think that's the point where I would say, yeah, you need to consider self-managing. I also don't believe, Jeff, I've said this before, I don't believe I'm some savant here. Like, I just get to focus on it 100% of my day. Versus, like, before, when I had a day job and we had our own properties, like, I didn't focus on it 100% of the day, and it suffered because of that. And I think that's where we can help you win. I also would say that, like, I will help you find the resources. If I don't believe I can manage it appropriately, I will help you find the resources. Like, I get them in contact with you. We've done that before to do videos and all the things. We can talk about, like, even pricing. It's like, I can show you some pricing models and, like, how the trends are rolling. And if you want a static pricing, we can talk about that for you and what makes the most sense. But I just can't take on the world. There's 4,000 to 5,000 properties. My business can't handle 5,000 properties. So we have to be selective in how we are operating too.
Got it. Any other data that's relevant to share this time of year, right before summer kicks in?
I tell you what's really interesting to me, and I was looking at this before we got here. So May bookings, really, I would say if you feel like you're low in May, we're just starting to see it come back to even year over year. We were a little down.
And by the way, at the time of this recording, it is May 6th, for reference, because the release will be mid to late May.
Right.
But you should know this.
No, that makes sense. So we were at, like, as a lake, as best I can see, we were at like 28 to 30% booked for May, and we should be closer to 40 by the end of May. Okay. We were down a couple percent year over year, and now we're
going to ask you, how does that compare? Okay, so now we're up.
Now we're up.
So 40% occupancy is a good
May number.
So if you're if you're judging on your own property, that's where you want to be.
Between 35 and 40% is a good number. If you're not there, it's going to be directly related to two things. Either A, your photos, like you have zero amenities for someone to come down and like, because they can't swim in the lake, like they can't sit on the dock all day, like there's zero amenities in your house, which is possible. Or two, your pricing's just too high for May, which a lot of people fall into the May trap, which is like, hey, it's May.
They think they can get it.
Yeah, or even Memorial Weekend. Like I debate this, and I would be open to debating with anybody, but the Memorial Weekend is obviously a holiday weekend. It is not the biggest holiday weekend or even a big holiday weekend for like the Ozarks. I think St. Patrick's Week and the event weeks are actually bigger than Memorial Day. If you try to capture a 6-night booking on Memorial Weekend, you're probably gonna have a struggle to do that. I'm not saying you can't, I'm saying you're probably gonna struggle. A lot of people, they're still in school, they still are trying to figure that out.
Graduations and all that kind of stuff.
We actually had to move, like we moved a lot of our homes to 3-night minimums on Memorial Day, where typically we're at 4. We moved them down to 3.
Just to get them.
To grab a good booking. And then, anybody that knows my mentality, 14 days prior to check-in, we are always evaluating those properties, whether they need to go up or down in price based on what's happening in the markets.
Got it. That's good stuff. So if somebody wants to have a conversation with you, they want to talk about just their property, they want to talk about maybe hiring you, or they want to talk about what's the best way to find all the properties I need so I know what property I need for my vacation at the lake, how do they get a hold of you on all the ways?
Yeah, so lakeozarkmanagement.com, that's going to be how you get a hold of me directly. There is 2 ways. You can call the phone number, which we can put here. And then, or you can go in there and schedule time on my calendar. Please note that like we're getting in the busy season. If I'm a little late to the call or if I miss it, it's most likely because I'm dealing with some sort of property emergency. Like Jeff's house is constantly. No, I'm just kidding. That's not true. So like, please give me forgiveness there. But you can book a time with me there. The best way to do it, there is a form that you can fill out for a revenue estimator. Fill that out. That's going to send me an email. Somebody on my team will get back with you with how we operate and what we do. And then from there, you can call me or schedule time. And that is the best way to do it because that is how I'm prioritizing time, is when I can do the research up front to understand your property, which is what I do from basically 10 o'clock to midnight, is I sit down and do all the incoming leads, try to understand their property and how I can best help. And if you want to book with us, go to grandwelcome.com. You can then search for Missouri and then Lake of the Ozarks, and you'll see all, I think currently 77 live. We have 85 roughly signed, 77 live properties today that you can go view and book today.
Lots of options. Now, for those of you that haven't left us, God bless you, because now you're going to get a tour of this house, which is one of the 85, and this is a cool house. I will mention where you're at. You're just off the Hurricane Deck Bridge, real close to Captain Ron's, actually like a stone's throw from the Tavern at Trails Inn. If you're not familiar with the Tavern at Trails Inn or the Tavern Restaurants, John Buchanan is the owner with his wife. They have that, which is a stone's throw from here. They have the Tavern Trattoria in Lori, which is also relatively close to here. Then they have the Tavern Smokehouse in Camdenton. They kind of named it because of this area, right? Tell us about this house. Walk us through it.
Yeah, so I mean, when you come in the door, it's a great entryway, bedroom on your right. It's really set up for entertaining, which is what I love about the house. So the kitchen to living room concept, laundry room out of the kitchen, which I actually like that. It's really easy to
cook and do laundry at the same time.
Well, you can definitely do a couple of things at once. Yep. That's great. Great living room, and then the master bedroom's right here.
Which is a really big master bedroom.
Yeah, huge bedroom, huge bathroom in here.
And I will mention, when you drive up to this house, you think it's small.
Yeah.
It's like sneaky big.
Yeah, it is. It's actually in a really quiet place, which I love. The neighbors are awesome, which is not rare, but it's definitely fun when the neighbors enjoy that there are people and guests here. The bedroom has a private balcony, which is nice, and then we are on the private living room balcony. As you go downstairs, 2 more bedrooms down there, 2 full baths downstairs. So there's only 1 bedroom that doesn't have an ensuite, and it has a half bath next door. And then you go out to the bottom, there's a fire pit.
Stay inside for a second. The living area down there.
Forgot about the game room. There's the bar with the pool table and the shuffleboard, and then the other living room. And then as you come out on the deck, you have the fire table, the pellet smoker, and then the dock and all the great things. The dock does have a slide, which is great.
You're deep in a cove here?
Yeah, it's a deep cove and it's quiet because it's no wake. And then, but you can like sit on this deck where we're sitting and you can see the main channel.
So this is like the 35-ish?
Yeah, I think that's right.
By water, you're just past the Hurricane Deck Bridge going upstream, basically.
Yes.
So it's a great spot on the lake.
It is a major...
You're close to everything, you know?
Yes.
You're far enough away from the chaos, but close enough to a bunch of lake bars, including Ron's, including Bear Bottom.
Oh, yeah.
You're close to Cave, you're close to Fishing Co. This is a great spot. And this cove is killer.
It's cool. And there's a major ramp. Roughwater Docks has a ramp right by Hurricane Deck Bridge.
So bring your boat. Beautiful.
Yep. You can drop it in, and it's only like a mile. You can put it in there's a slip here for guests. So.
Fantastic. Well, this is always enlightening. Next time you see us, if I'm not sitting in shorts and a t-shirt, I will be pissed because it'll be June. And it better be hot. It has been hot. I have nothing to complain about. As always, Zach, thank you for sharing with the audience. If you don't connect, if you need to connect, if you don't follow Grand Welcome on the socials, if you have questions that you want answered, if you have struggles with your current management company, give this guy and his wife a call because they're awesome.
Thanks, guys.
you.